Birch Heights is an independent living community. We cater to the over 55. We have different size apartments. We provide meals, activities, a shuttle bus, and we hope a well-rounded lifestyle for our residents. If anyone would like to take a walk around the community after the seminar, one of the managers would be happy to show you. My husband and I manage here, and we also live here, and Eric and Deanna Danette are also the other managers. So we're not only helping to run the community, but we're our residents' neighbors, and therefore we want the community to be as best as it can be because we live here. So I'd like to introduce Cindy Tanami from Community Caregivers of Derry, and she'll explain a little more about the seminar and their fabulous group in Derry that helps so many people on a volunteer basis.
Well, thank you, Polly. Thank you, everyone, for coming out and weathering the storm. And we also have Derry Cable that was gracious enough to come and tape this so that it can be later seen by a wider audience. So just want to talk to you a little bit about caregivers briefly and what we might be able to do to help support a caregiver that's caring for a loved one. We have free in-home caregiving for the elderly and disabled in 7 towns: Derry, Londonderry, Hampstead, Windham, Sandown, Chester, and Danville. All the services are free of charge, and we do light chores, grocery shopping, friendly visiting, transportation to medical appointments, yard work, home repair, respite care. We can, do things like bring in your mail, walk your dog, help you, organize, get a different system of organizing. But what I want to talk about just briefly is just how we're able to help a caregiver. So for example, say a spouse is caring for an aging and ailing loved one, and they barely have enough time to use the restroom, let alone mow their lawn, bring groceries in for the household, do their laundry, make meals. So, we do really want people to know that even, along with doing respite care, we're also able to help out with the household tasks so that you don't have to do them. So if anybody watching or anybody here today thinks that we might be able to be of some assistance to you in your goal to better care for your loved one, please reach out to us and let us know. Tonight's talk is about caring for the caregiver, as Polly had said, and thank you very much, Polly and Birch Heights, for having us here tonight. Our presenter tonight is Pam Maines, who's the Director of Service Development at Community House Calls. Pam has more than 38 years of experience in teaching and training, sales and marketing, and client services and management. She has a master's in education and is a certified instructor for the Powerful Tools for Caregivers course developed by the Legacy Health in Portland, Oregon. Pam joined Community House Calls in 2005 as the Director of Service Development. In this position, she has been active in promoting Community House Calls as a viable alternative to help seniors and adults with disabilities to remain in their homes as long as possible. She continues to do research and has published articles of interest and information for seniors. She has created and delivered informational workshops and presentations to seniors, health professionals, community groups, and the public at large. She is a liaison between Community House Calls and their clients to maintain and improve quality assurance and customer satisfaction, as well as a liaison between clients and their families, case managers, and the staff at Community House Calls. So I want to thank Pam for weathering the storm and driving over an hour to get here, and I'll invite her up to speak for us. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Cindy. And thank you, Cindy, for having me, and Polly also for having me. It is a snowy evening, so I appreciate all of you that made the effort to get out here and see this. and listen to me discuss some things. I am, as Cindy mentioned, Pam Maines. I work with Community House Calls. Community House Calls is a company that is in its 11th year. We help seniors and adults with disabilities remain at home as long as possible, and we do that to modifications in the home environment. So we're not touching the client, we're just helping you stay at home as long as possible and as independently as possible through safety. We have a separate division. Community House Calls also has been around for, we're in our 11th year. We've received an award previously from New Hampshire Better Business Bureau for marketplace ethics, which is really important to us for what the clients we deal with. Unfortunately, a lot of seniors and people with disabilities and just regular old folk have been scammed. So it's very important to us to be able to rest on our reputation. We don't really rest. I'm constantly doing quality assurance calls to make sure everyone is satisfied with our work. About 3 years ago, Ray opened a division called Healthy Homes Today. That helps people of all ages with hoarding and organizing challenges. It makes the home safer. There's been a lot of publicity on TV with hoarders and buried alive and all that, so people are more aware of that. Ray will be presenting in San Francisco in May at the International Conference on Hoarding, so we're very proud of that also. Something we've done from day one but has not been particularly advertised, and something we've taken on and found a great need for. Okay, we're talking about, we also cover from Concord down to Manchester, Salem, Derry, Nashua, all the way over to the seacoast, from Seabrook on up to Rochester. So we cover a wide variety. We're a small company. We have all our own handymen. We work with a master electrician, master plumber for the work that we are not able to do ourselves. Caring for the caregiver. A lot of people think they are alone, which they're not. There are actually 90% of the people in the United States over 100 years old are women. A lot of them are still caregivers, believe it or not. Caregivers for their children, caregivers for a neighbor. My mother-in-law was 96, and she would take all her friends to the doctors, all the friends who were younger. Every 7 seconds, a baby boomer turns 50. By the beginning of 2015, the oldest baby boomer will reach 65. And the world has changed a lot since people have gone through different health conditions. We've gotten improvements in health. We know about exercise. We know about what to eat and what not to eat, except sometimes that changes with the whim of everything. 1900. Anybody want to guess at how old the average life expectancy was?
55?
You close. 47. 47 years old. So you didn't have to worry about too much. You got to 47, you were gone. Nowadays, you can be in your 80s or 90s or 100s. I used to watch TV when I was young, and you'd see someone come on and say, oh, here are the people who've turned 100 this week. And there were maybe 2 or 3, and now it's like a whole litany of people who have gotten to this point. 34 million adults provide care to people 50 and above. People say, okay, so who are those caregivers? Those are the children of elderly parents. They are neighbors. They are friends. And they are also grandkids. We're seeing a lot of grandkids that are taking care of their grandparents, which is a nice thing to see. But at the same point in time, These people also have other responsibilities. They may have work responsibilities. They are probably or may still be working. They have responsibilities to their children who are growing. They might have children in college, so they need funds for that. They may be raising small children, so they need to be conscious of their responsibilities for that. So you've got all kinds of people taking all kinds of time away from their own life to help others, which is also a nice thing to see. It's also a very hard thing to do. As a caregiver, you give of yourself. You're not only giving physically, as in taking them to the doctor, or bringing them to see a friend, or sitting down and have coffee with them. You're also spending money financially, probably. Gas to get there, buying them a little gift, cooking something at home for them and bringing it in, a special treat that they might like. You're also taking time away from your family. You're taking time away from the work you might be doing or supposed to be doing. And that ends up being a bit of a problem because there's a balancing act. You're trying to balance your work, your family, and a loved one. So it becomes a very difficult thing to do. Sometimes people will try to get all those balls up in the air and keep them going, which you can do. But I heard an example of how much does a cup of coffee, half a cup of coffee now since I've gotten rid of some of it, how much does that weigh?
2 ounces.
2 ounces maybe. It's 2 ounces. If I continue to hold this cup of 2 ounces and I hold it for 5 minutes, my arm might get a little tired. If I hold it for an hour, it's probably going to get tireder yet. If you hold it for a day, your arm's going to be exhausted. This 2 ounces is going to feel like 20 pounds. You can't keep doing something without being refreshed. So, what do? You've got all these commitments. You have all these responsibilities. How do you tackle the problem of getting everything done? Quite simply, you don't. It's a good idea to sit and write down your priorities. I have to do this. This is a responsibility. I have to make lunch for my children for school because it's important that they have good nutrition. I have to go to work and I have a project that is due in a week and a half. I have to work on that. I have my mother who is failing and I have to somehow get over there to see her, make sure everything is okay, make sure she is still able to carry on her regular activities. And if not, I have to do that. And then I might have some other things that I'm involved with. Someone has asked me to head up the committee for a bake sale at school. Or they're asking me to head up the work picnic. And because I'm so used to taking on responsibilities, I say, sure, I can do that. When it comes to caregiving, you're going to have to start looking at all the responsibilities you have, all the things you've said yes to, and then set some priorities. What can you let go of? What is important to you? What's going to be important in 2 weeks? Will that bake sale still be important? Will that project you're working on, is that necessary that you do the whole thing, or can someone else help you with that? Will it be important in 5 years? You have to make that decision and then take what's really important and start to prioritize and make sure you're putting your attention in those things that really need your energy, that make a difference to you now and will make a difference to you down the road. So you have to start to set priorities. Let's see. 48% of caregivers are employed full-time. 11% are employed part-time. I worked at Verizon. I had a mother-in-law who was ill, and I asked to have a flexible schedule. They agreed to that for a while. Everything was fine. And then corporate said, no, sorry, got to be here 9 to 5 like everybody else. So it's a good idea to talk with your employer before a crisis arises, before there's a need and things get very stressful and complicated. If you talk with the employer, there may be some chance for flexible time. There may be a chance of working from home part-time. There may be the opportunity to take advantage of the Family Leave Act, where you can go and take a certain number of weeks and be able to take that without pay, but you'd be able to get control of the situation. Hopefully that would help your time. Your mom fell and broke her hip. What are you going to do? How are you going to get someone to put a ramp in? You need to get her home. Do you have to make provisions for her to have care at home? It's easier to start a conversation if you see something on the news, if there's something in the newspaper, if you and the family member that you know you're going to have to be caring for can start a conversation early. It makes things a lot easier. When things are in crisis, after your mom has fallen and broken her hip, or after your dad has been diagnosed with a dementia or Alzheimer's, that's kind of a tough time to say, okay, let's sit down and talk about this and this and this. Then it's a bit confusing. It's a little too late. You're in a pressure-filled situation. You have to make decisions that are somehow workable for you and for your loved one. So, talk with them before. There are a lot of people who have caregivers that do long-distance caregiving. About 42% live within 20 minutes. The rest may live an hour or 2 or 3 hours away. So you have to look at that. Okay, if you live far away, you have to deal with a number of things. And they actually are the same things that you have to deal with when you live close. Because one of the feelings, or some of the feelings that come up with caregiving, are guilt. You know, I wish I could do more. I'm not doing enough. I've got to pay attention. I feel terrible that my mother is anxious, that she can't get around the way she did. Well, what you have to do is look at that situation and say, okay, I'll take what guilt is mine, and the rest I'm going to leave on the table, because you have to go on with your life. You may have guilt, and that may be incurred or encouraged by the person who is having difficulty, because they may say, you never come to see me. Nobody ever visits me. They don't care about me anymore. When in truth, someone's going there every day, but they don't remember. You might have to deal with fear. Fear comes from looking too far ahead. I don't know what's going to happen next with this disease. I'm not familiar with it. Well, there's plenty of information on the internet now. And it's probably good not to go too far ahead, because things happen that you don't expect at a time that you don't expect them to happen. So some of the fear, if you think about that, and you say, all right, I am afraid of this, but I'll wait and see what happens. Take as much information in as I can from the doctor, from the internet, from wherever you can get it, and say, all right, I have to deal with this, but I'm going to put off worrying about this down the road, until down the road, because there's nothing I can do about it now. Anger. I'm really angry. I'm angry at this person because all of a sudden my whole life is flipped upside down. I know that they are not feeling well, and I understand that, but it's hard for me. They're not who they used to be. They don't remember things. They don't remember that I'm coming over every day. And the anger can develop and fester. And the other problem is it's a loss of the person we once knew. Even if they're in a wheelchair, or if they cannot remember things, or if they start repeating. That's not the same person you knew before. You want them to be the same. You want to be able to help, and a lot of times that's not possible. I'll give you an example that I use with a lot of presentations. You have someone in and you're going to have tea together. So you invite them to come in your home. And you're going to have tea, and you've made these wonderful little biscuits, and you're going to share them with this person. You're going to share a cup of warm tea. That'll bring some comfort. You're going to share companionship. And you're going to share, hopefully, laughter, conversation, good times. So someone arrives and you put a teapot on the stove. You're going to make tea. And that tea water, as it heats, is going to give you comfort by giving you warm water. And that's the start of the whole process. You're going to be sharing with someone. Now, if I leave that teapot on the stove, I turn the burner on, and small bubbles start to form inside that teapot. And you don't see them, but you can hear a little bit of turmoil going on in there. Small bubbles. As the teapot continues to sit on the stove, those bubbles get larger. And there's a little more agitation in the pot. Pretty soon, the bubbles are very large. There's a lot of tumult going around inside, and these bubbles start to evaporate. When they start to evaporate, they turn into steam, evaporate, and the teapot starts to whistle. Hooray, tea's ready. I can take it off the burner and I can share this cup of tea, and we can get on with eating biscuits and jam and wonderful pastries and things like that, and talk and just share some companionship, because we all need and crave companionship and friendship and love. However, if I leave that teapot on the stove and I ignore the whistling, the water is going to boil more and more violently. Pretty soon, the water will have evaporated, and there's nothing left in the pot. There's no water. There's no comfort to be given. And what happens is that when the water evaporates and it still continues to sit on that burner, the pot gets very weak, it turns black, and it becomes unusable. And that's one thing that I think is very similar to what happens with us as caregivers. We start out, we are very good intentioned, we're going to help this person, we can tackle anything and everything because we've been through a lot, and we know how to do this, and we like to be of help, and this person is important to us. But as you progress in this caregiving, and it causes stresses in other parts of your life because you're giving up time, you're giving up effort, you're giving up energy, what do you do? It's okay. What you need to do is take that teapot off the stove. And what it means in reality to you is, I've got a quote, I love quotes. This one says, every now and then, go away and have a little relaxation. To remain constantly at work will diminish your judgment. Go some distance away, because work will be in a perspective and a lack of harmony is more readily seen. Anybody want to guess who that is by?
A woman.
A woman. Sounds good. Leonardo da Vinci, of all people. And it's true, because if you're right in there and you're engrossed in this situation, and you have made a bubble around you and the person you're caring for, and while you're in that bubble, that's all you can think about and all you can do, pretty soon you're going to get burnt out, just like that teapot. You're not going to have anything left to give. So how do you do that? How do you get back to where I can give, where I can truly give of myself, where I can get rid of a little of the fear, get rid of a little of the anxiety, gain a little energy back? You've got to step back. You've got to step back. And what can you do? You can say, all right, I'm going to take 5 minutes once a week, because that's all I can afford. I am so busy. I can't even afford that. I'll write it in my appointment book. 5 minutes on Tuesday, I will take time for me. And what happens a lot is that when that day comes up on your appointment book, you look at it and you say, 5 minutes. Well, I'll fit it in, not at 2 o'clock when I say, I'll fit it in after work. I'll fit it in at 7 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night. And of course, when 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock comes and you're going to do this all for you, you fall asleep because you're exhausted. So, what we suggest you do is that you take some time and make it reasonable. Take even 15 minutes, and you can choose to do whatever you want to do. Notice I didn't say whatever you need to do. I didn't say you can take that time and catch up on errands. I didn't say you could take that time and take the dog to the vet. You have to take that time just for you. And it has to be fun. 15 minutes. As you go along, you might increase the time, but what you're doing is you're putting a distance between you and work, you and the caregiving situation, you and the kids that you are managing and taking care of, and they're growing well. You've got to take the time for you, because if you don't, you're going to be like that black teapot. You're not going to be able to give anybody anything. So, what can you do that's fun? You might have a hobby that you could work on, and you can, of course, increase that time. I usually say start with 15 minutes because that's an easier chunk of time that you can say, all right, it's only 15 minutes. You can sit quietly and meditate. You can say, you know what? I haven't had coffee with this friend of mine, my best girlfriend, in I don't know how long. Maybe it's a month, or maybe it's 2, I don't know. But I'm going to call her, and I'm going to meet her for coffee, and I'm going to allot 30 minutes, or maybe 45, and see if I can get some energy back into myself, and talk about anything but what's going on with me right now that I have concerns about. Talk about all times you've done, had memories of. You can talk about things that you want to do. Maybe you have the same hobbies. Maybe you can end up going for a walk together. You don't have to do coffee. You can go for a walk. You can go shopping. You go have a manicure. Lots of things that you can do, things that would relax you. Guys, maybe it's a massage. Maybe it's going bowling. Just something that you want to do for you that will make you happy. And that is a lot easier said than done. Because there are a lot of things, if you sit there and think about it and make a list. All right, I said walk, I said bowling, I said go and get a manicure, a massage. Anything else come to mind that you might like to do that would relax you and be fun? Take a bath. Bubble bath. Yes, absolutely. Anybody else?
Go on a trip.
Go on a trip. Might be a short trip.
I was going to say 15 minutes.
Well, you can increase that. You can work up to that.
Go to a movie by yourself.
Go to a movie by yourself. Or get a Netflix, put it in the TV and watch that, or watch part of it. Just you by yourself, and enjoy that. Or with a friend. You can do that too. So that's one thing that you can do to relieve some stress. The other thing is you can talk about the situation. And I talked about anger before. You're angry because your whole life has been turned upside down. You're angry because this person is not the person you used to know. You're angry because now you have become the mother to your mother. All these things. And one of the things that also gets caregivers is they're angry because they're the only ones. I've got a brother. I've got 3 sisters. And you know what? They don't help me at all. They don't want to be bothered. They figured I'm closest here and I'm going to do everything. Well, you know what? They can do things from afar too. And a lot of times people will say they would like to help. What they need when someone comes and says, can I help? It might be a neighbor who comes and sees your car there and knows that you're there visiting your mom. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, you know, I know your mom's not feeling well. Please tell me if there's something I can do. Yes, that would be wonderful. I'd love it. But you know what? They don't know what you need. You have to tell them. I would like you to get my mother's mail. I would like you to come and sit on Thursdays with my mother for about an hour and just have tea or read to her. She's got to go to a doctor's appointment next week. Can you take her? People want to help. They want to help others, which is the way it should be. But they need to know what to do. Because if you say, oh yes, I'll give you a call, and you don't call, or you say, oh, that would be wonderful, and you don't tell them what are they going to do? They don't know. They don't know what is needed best or most for this person who is in pain. So you have to give that to them. Oh, what else do we have? Oh, it's funny. There was a study once. I don't know if you can see this. The study says, seniors fear loss of independence more than death.
Yes.
Yes. It's true. You don't want to lose your independence. You've been independent all your life. So someone is having difficulty and they gather together the rest of the family and they talk about the situation and who's going to do what and what's coming down the pike and all that. Well, if you include the person who is the one who is receiving the care, that might be a great idea. Because you know what? They have ideas too. Just because at this point they've broken a hip and don't get around as well doesn't mean that they don't think. And sometimes they can come up with their own solutions, or everybody throws solutions on the table, but they have input because this is their life too. So that idea of just you making all the decisions all of a sudden for that parent or neighbor or loved one, take them into consideration. They are people, they have feelings. So you want to be aware of that, that is one of the greatest things you can do. Work productivity. You might not know, you think you know, don't assume what they need. Don't assume that they like to eat lunch at 12 o'clock on the dot. They might like to eat lunch at 2 o'clock, and they might want to have a good snack at 10 o'clock. Take that all into consideration. Put it in there and say, okay, what would you like to do? And you might discuss all these things and say, all right, we have this idea, we have this idea, and we have this idea, and we have this idea. Which do you think is the most viable? Let's all try to think about this. Let's all make see which one is going to work best. And also remember that the decision you make today is the best decision you can make at that point with the information you have, and go from there. Don't look back. You can't, because the situation will have changed. You have to look at the situation you have right then and there. A lot of other things people don't think about is the VA. A lot of people don't realize that if you've been in the service, the VA is there to help. And sometimes they can help financially with renovations, a remodel. We work a lot with them. You can widen a doorway, remove a threshold, put a ramp in, put some grab bars in, things that make you safer at home, things that make your loved ones safer at home, because it's important. If you lived in a house for 40 years and now you've had some tremendous accident happen or a situation develop, you don't want to move out of your house. You want to stay in your home. You want your friends to visit you because they'll come and visit you there, and guess what? They're not quite as likely to visit you in a nursing home because that's threatening to them. So if someone can stay at home safely as long as possible, that will work. Let's see what else. We did long distance caregiving. Prioritize, avoid procrastination. I used to do that all the time, procrastinate. It's just easier. I don't have to think about it now. I'll decide tomorrow. Or I'll decide in a week. And then all of a sudden a week becomes 2, and guess what? The situation has changed. And now it's more difficult because you didn't make an original decision. You didn't make a decision at that point in time when it needed to be made. It can always be changed. Whatever decision you make, is not set in stone. You can change it, or you can tweak it to have it work a little better. And I guess that's about it. Does anyone have any questions at all? Yes.
How many people does a caregiver generally have under their belt if they're not working?
One
Just one?
or two
Okay.
or three,
Okay.
or there may be four. Because you might have someone who has an illness, you might have someone who is disabled somehow. You might have your mother and father have divorced. Your father needs help, he's not married. Your mother needs help, she lives over here. How do you split? A lot of people run into that situation where they have multiple responsibilities. So even if you don't work, you are working. Caregiving is a hard job.
It can be very enjoyable too.
It can be very enjoyable because sometimes when you're helping someone, you say, this is improving my relationship with this person. We're talking about things we didn't talk about before. I feel like I'm giving of myself and I'm getting in return because they're appreciative. Absolutely. Anything else?
Pam,
Yes.
how do you start the conversation with parents that are getting older that they don't want to have the conversation, but it needs to be done?
Sometimes you break
Tactfully.
Sometimes you break into it very gracefully. Someone has passed away, a friend, a neighbor, someone that they know and you know, and say, oh, you know, this is really difficult. I'm really sad that we're not going to be seeing this person, but, you know, that reminds me, when I pass, I think I want you to know that what I would like in case I go before you. And you start it that way. And then sometimes they will contribute in. Sometimes there's an article in the newspaper that this family has become homeless and they need help. Well, one of the people has a serious illness. They have cancer. Well, let's think about them. I wonder what you would do if you've been burned out of your house. Where would you go? Where would this person with cancer go if it's irreparable? You're sliding down the slippery slope. Anything that will bring up a discussion of even finances, the economy. The economy is going down the tube. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm never ever going to be able to retire. What do you have planned? Do you have something planned for you? And maybe that will give me some ideas of what to do. That's me. I'm sorry, I thought I shut that one off. I have two of them. I shut one and obviously not the other. So bring it, relate it to you, and then see if you can involve them in the conversation also. Anyone else?
Just to mention some other things that I didn't mention before, you know, there are many caregiver support groups in the area. There's one at Parkland Oncology, there's one at the Londonderry Senior Center, there's one at the Elliott at Londonderry, there's one down at this Silverthorne Adult Day. There's probably 10 within, a 10-mile radius. Some are the first Thursday, at dinner, one's during, the day, and oftentimes they provide daycare, or at least someone where at least a conducive environment where you could bring your loved one, with you, or at least have enough options where someone can sit for the person you're taking care of, that you can find one, and support groups, just as if you're, a spouse passes and you join a widow's club or something. It's the same type of thing, someone that already knows what you're going through that can support you with that. And I think I've gone to a couple of them just to give them information on caregivers, and I think what I was most surprised about is that after a loved one passes, the support group was so meaningful to that individual they chose to keep going to support other people that were still going through that journey. So please call ServiceLink if you're looking for any of that information. You know, the New Hampshire Caregivers Grant. I don't know if everybody knows about the New Hampshire Caregivers Grant. Shelley at ServiceLink can give you more information, but it's a small grant that will pay for some supplemental assistance. But along with that is that support, that monthly, that weekly support from that Caregivers Grant individual that can be tremendous to give you resources that maybe you didn't know about. Also, I always try to tell caregivers, you know, some things can wait. You know, your expectations are going to change. The norm is going to change. I always tell people, dust won't walk away. Dust will not make your house fall down. There's going to be a new standard of what is kind of your hierarchy of needs is going to change, and you have to say, like, what absolutely need, you know, you don't want to smell, you know, the trash. So you need a good plan about if you're not there, who can take out the trash, who can empty the kitty litter box, but like on top of that, like shovel the driveway. You know, a lot of the other stuff, you know, you pick your battles, you know, that's what I try to tell people. And, you know, if it comes to a visual impairment, you know, New Hampshire Association of the Blind, you know, I always, you know, people laugh when I say it, but I say, you know, they'll come in and they'll, you know, they used to have this show, you know, Pimp Your Ride or Pimp This, you know, they will come in and they will just introduce you to so many things in the home that you didn't even know existed to help you and your loved one figure out a new way of being, you know, whether that's, you know, things to help you for blindness, or if you have issues with hearing impairment. And, you know, obviously if they're nursing home ready, but if they'd like to stay at home, ServiceLink can also give information on the choices for independence, which I always encourage people if they're, you know, the level of Medicaid and they're frail enough to look into what used to be known as HCBIC, but is now CFI, to see if there's a way to get some other supplemental assistance. So, you know, resources are out there, and I'm sure you know, people could call us if they'd like more information. I always tell my staff, you know, even if we can't help you, we'll give you 5 minutes and hopefully help you in a direction of someone that can. So
I also send Cindy some resource lists, places you can go. There are caregiver websites. There are things like Meals on Wheels. There are some police departments or fire departments that will check in on an elderly person to make sure everything is going well. Many resources out there that are available to you, and to take advantage of them is really a smart thing to do, because there's a ton of them. There's a ton of them, so hopefully that will help too. And also safety. I sent Cindy a list of safety checklist for the home, so that if you're going through your mom or your dad's or your neighbor's or your friend's house, you can look and see, is the lighting adequate? Are there scatter rugs on the floor, which are a major trip and fall damage? And I can talk till I'm blue, but no one will take them off. And I say, wash them. If you really love them, wash them. Hang them on the wall. They're beautiful wall hangers. Put them on the tool bench. I don't know, anything. And yes, you had a question.
I was just going to say, when we're talking with this, one of the big things is helping. How do you decide when you're ready to come into a community like this? Should you go with an independent or a dependent group, or just where do you go? And there's a lot of thinking. That's one of the big things of people that come in here. It's a big change in their life, right. Tremendous change in their life. And how do you let go of things and move forward to make your life easier, because you know you can't do certain things.
Right.
But that people coming in here, that's a big thing.
It's huge.
Tremendous change in one's life.
Right? Because you have a lot of things that you've accumulated over time, and a lot of those things are very close to your heart. They have good memories, so people will hold on to them.
And you have a lot of routines.
And you have a lot of
And
routines.
those routines need to change.
That's right.
And you're involved in a lot of things. Which ones are you going to let go because you can't do it anymore? And there's a lot to that part of it.
I think if you write things down, your routines, okay, how is this going to change? Will this work for me? Is there some way I can tweak it? What am I going to do with all my stuff? I can't take it all with me. Can I write a little note and send this to my niece? Because I think she would love it. I'll give a little history with it. Can I give to those people who got burned out in the fire? Let's give something to Goodwill or Salvation Army or St. Vincent de Paul. There are plenty of places that will take that. Go through your closet. We go through with the hoarding part of Healthy Homes today. Go through your closet, and a woman said, I've got all these clothes. I don't know what to do. And some of them have tags on them. Well, you know what? You start out and you start here and you take out 5 pieces of clothing. You try each one on. Does it fit? Does it need repair? Does it make you feel pretty? Because if it doesn't, why do you have it? You know, give it away. Get rid of it. Yes.
I'd like to just add that a 46-year-old girl has enlightened me when she had a car accident, had a beautiful job. She was a director and making very big money, and she had a beautiful home. When she found out that she'd never walk again and she had to resign to that wheelchair, that was the biggest trauma of her life. And she made me see differently, because when I talked to her and she said, I'm giving all this up to go and live in a facility with assisted living. And I tried to reassure her about the friends that she would make. But in that big home, there's no way that she could have cleaned it. Yeah. And she didn't have the money to man it. And I said, why would you want to keep a 15-room house and have somebody come and clean it when you can't even go up those stairs unless you get a stair lift?
Right.
And she said, you know, material things don't mean anything when you're in this spot. And she gave everything up to go to assisted living. She is very happy where she is, and she's come across a lot of friends. And I just think that she's been blessed in a special way.
Absolutely, and that's a lot of acceptance, flexibility. If you don't have that, you're really kind of lost.
I just want, at one point, both my parents had Alzheimer's. And I actually spent 2 years with my mother before she went into the nursing home. And the toughest part I had with it was, she started out, they gave her all, medicines that could have kept her at stage 1. But she's one of these people like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. She still felt like she was back 20 years ago. And so you leave out the medication for her and she wouldn't take it. We found out when she went to the nursing home, she went into a drawer and she had all these cups lined up with the medication she should have been taking over that time. So you really need somebody, if you're taking care of somebody, you really need somebody to watch, to make sure that they take the medication.
Right, it's true. Well, I thank you all for coming. As I say, Cindy's got some resources.
Yep, I think everybody has them.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Well,
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks for coming out on this snowy night.
I'll pull, if you want, I'll go get the door prize basket, and Julie will go get it, and we'll pull it so we can hand you your gift certificate if you win. Yeah, it's right here. So.